Hi guys, Tugger here with a new video, and this video will be a very long tier list video about PvP in TBC Classic Anniversary. We're talking about Season 1, but it is a special tier list because I find not really a lot of people talking about that kind of tier list, which I find one of the most important tier lists to be making, because if you're like really choosing a class, you should be choosing a class that you're not going to be sick with because you only want to play a meta arena spec, but you also are going to grind a lot of hours into BGs to get the honor and the marks to get the off pieces, or just simply to get the first like pieces that you're going to need for TBC arenas or TBC BGs or even World PvP, because World PvP will be a very important aspect for PvP Anniversary, like Classic Anniversary. Since now it's going to be TBC Classic Anniversary, it's going to give you a World PvP aspect that you probably didn't have the first time around in 2021. So as you may know from the title, it is going to be a casual PvP tier list video for TBC Classic Anniversary. And what do I mean with casual? I mean BGs, mostly BGs, and of course, if you're able to do 2v2, 3v3, and 5v5, that's good. You don't need to be right high rated for this kind of video, because this is more about fun, more about like what is viable, where can you find the fun inside of BGs. And I find it very interesting because most of the time you're going to spend are in BGs, and then you're going to do arenas, 10 games to get the arena points, or if they switch into conquest, I think that's miles better. But for now, it is not the case. Why do I make this video? Because on the internet right now, there are barely any tier list videos talking about BGs in TBC, because it is not rated and people find it not interesting to talk about, which I find kind of like the opposite. I think most people are playing BGs, and the people that are dedicated play arenas. I am dedicated, I love arenas, and of course I'm going to try to get glad for the season 1. If I'm like not like messing around with too many classes, I can focus on one, and most likely I'm going to be able to do so. But most of my time will be spent in BGs, so this is the reason of this tier list. Now, with the intro getting out of the way, let's talk about the first class, which is Warlock, and we have Affliction Warlock right here. And I find Affliction Warlock in BGs very good, for a very good reason, because if you're talking about Warsong Gulch, you need a stable affliction on the tank, so you don't like get like your Harshes dispelled. For example, Retribution Paladin that Harshes the tank that is not tank but the flag carrier that takes the flag and try to cap the flag, getting like insta dispelled every single time by the disc priest or the holy paladin, if there is a holy paladin, is really annoying. But a stable affliction gives you a dispel protection, which is like very punishing, and you can actually kill like healers with an unstable affliction, like with affliction warlock with a full row of dots. You can be very deadly, and you have way more breathing room. And I think also it's quite fun to play, at least in BGs. So for me, it's going to be an A tier. You can run with a Fell Hunter, or if you feel like rogues are only targeting you, you can go with a Void Walker, and that's fine. There is like a few spec combinations where you can play a combination between Affliction Warlock and then Destruction, so you get like the Shadow Burn, or you go into Demonology to get a bit more of a tankiness build. That's also possible. But I find it quite fun with how it plays, and again, if you're choosing a class or a spec to play in TBC, you should be trying to find a spec that is going to be fun to play long term. I find SLSL quite boring, that's the truth, and if I didn't have Affliction as a second spec, especially with dual talent being available, dual spec available in TBC Classic Anniversary, you can get Affliction for BGs, for example, and then SLSL for arenas. Well, talking about SLSL, I find SLSL in BG's not really that good. It's very tanky, that's for sure. You can, for example, in Arati Basin, survive a very long time on a node. That's very cool. In AV, I'm not talking too much about AV because I think AV is more of a like Zerg kind of gameplay. But like Eye of the Storm, very interesting to sit on a node, or play in the middle, try to like survive. So that's why I find it okay or good, at least like B or C. But like fun wise or like effectiveness, like towards actually finishing up targets, I find it that the damage is not really that high compared to a destruction warlock, compared to an affliction warlock, and I am not like that like sold on the aspect of like playing SLSL in BGs. I think you're very tanky, that's for sure. You're very hard to kill. You're going to be loving it to be an SLSL if you feel like you're targeted every single time. But in most BGs, especially Eye of the Storm, you get a bit of breathing room where you can actually cast a bit and you can like do the damaging part of your Warlock spec, which SLSL doesn't really bring too much. Like it is a lesser version of Affliction Warlock when it comes down to damage. So for me, it's going to be a good because I think it's still decent to have, and it's strong enough to be warranting a B. But you're going to lack the finishing power when you're talking about SLSL in at least a BG setting. In arenas, obviously SLSL is going to be godlike. Don't get me wrong. But like in BGs, it's completely different. I think if you have played SLSL before in BGs, you would know that technically you are like there to survive. But like imagine like trying to kill someone that has two healers behind their back. Like it's very difficult. While destruction warlock, if you're like untargeted, you could like literally blow up a target if you get like a lot of lucky crits. Um, I'm going to talk about Demonology first. I think Demonology Warlock, the issue is that Felguard, it pumps, but not enough. To be fair, in BG, you could with Felguard maybe do something. The issue is again, if a Warlock is on you, you don't have Voidwalker, so it's meh. You're not going to have a Fell Hunter either, so you don't have the benefits of like having a kick, and you don't have the benefits of having like the spell resistance, and you don't have the luxury of having the benefits of Fell Hunter. Like for example, stealth detection, which is pretty good. It's very good actually. Felguard doesn't have that. Also, you have a pet which can be killed, so it's very annoying to again summon back, or you again you're going to use a CD to get it back up. I'm going to put it in okay. I think like you don't have the benefits of being a hunter with your pet, but you also don't have like the striking power of a destruction warlock either. So I find it like a bit worse than the SLSL because you lack, for example, the siphon life, and you could go Demonology Warlock and like go into like Shadowburn, get the corruption 5 out of 5 to have instant cast. Um, but yeah, I think it's difficult because you don't have the goodies of neither specs, except that you have a Felguard, which is not like great at this expansion. Destruction Warlock, I find it great. Guys, I think Destruction Warlock in PvP, like purely BGs, you're going to have a great time because you can have a Shadow Fury into like Immolate Conflag, for example. That's a lot of damage. Or if you have like a chance of not getting a Dispel on Immolate, you can have like Immolate. You can then Shadow Fury, Shadow Bolt, Conflag, and that's a lot of damage with then a Shadow Burn at the end to finish up the target. That is possible, or you have Incinerate, depending on which one you're going to cast. You have different builds. You can play a Fire Conflag build, like where you have like a lot of fire damage, or you go for a shadow damage. You can have again some good combinations, and you technically Destruction Warlock is not bad. The issue is like the mana. You have to probably like life tap a lot, and obviously people are going to not let you cast too much. But in the BG, you have the casting time, and you have the possibility to be like surprising in your damage. Just be a bit more sneaky. If you're like really near a warrior, the warrior is going to zug you. That's just like pointless. But if you are like playing in a BG setting and you are able to turret a bit, that is the most fun part of Destruction Warlock in my eyes. You can play with Succubus, you can play with a Fell Hunter, you can play with a Voidwalker. You're very much like versatile in how you play your Destruction Warlock. I prefer Succubus, who can actually do a Soulfire, for example. And that like you have plenty of PvP videos, PvP montage videos of people like doing Succubus plays with within the BG, and that's possible for anyone to do. So I think it's very fun to do so. Now we're going to swap to Mage. I find Arcane Mage actually very good in BGs. Like I know people are like going to like turn their eyes, but you have Arcane Power, you have Slow, which is an annoying spell to deal with if you don't have a dispel. Like especially as a warrior, especially as like a rogue, where you have to cloak most likely. You still are a mage, so you are slippery. And I think the part of like mages not being like frost mage, and that's why it's not good. It's a bit exacerbated, especially because they're thinking about like arenas. But I find arcane mage is really deadly when they're like turreting, especially with arcane blast, and you have so much like power when you're using your CDs. It could be very fun. Again, you're very CD dependent, and the rest of the time you're trying to be a like a slow machine, which is annoying. And it works in PvP, guys. It really works. Just obviously you don't have like the power of an ice lance and whatnot, but you can still utilize ice lance. Like it's not like you can go arcane into a frost, or you can go arcane into fire mage to get the pump pyro, which is still a possibility for you. Um, but yeah, again, you could also do bomb arcane blast, which if you have fully stacked, it also does a lot of damage. It will depend on the situation, but I really like arcane mage. I think people are sleeping on arcane mage, but if you're a mage anyways and you do PvE, most likely you're going to have an arcane mage spec. Just try to put it a bit more PvP focused, and you're good to go. You can just play with that spec into PvP, and probably have success with it. Um, but yeah, it's again, it's not arenas, so you have the liberty to have fun with your spec. And I think Arcane Mage is a fun spec. Just lacks the tools to like do a lot of damage. Like it for PvP, Arcane Mage has always been like kind of a meme spec. It also in BGs like Wrath of the Lich King, you could do Arcane Mage, but technically Frost Mage is better, like by a mile. Even Fire Mage is better than Arcane Mage, but I find Arcane Mage always like to be surprising if you're fighting one, especially like as a warrior. Like it's very annoying to deal with, in my eyes, because you don't have Blaze Storm in TBC. That's like very deadly, and I need a dispel on the slow, or else not going to have fun. So yeah, Frost Mage, God mode. I think it's really good because you don't need too many CDs. You just need to have someone into like a freeze, for example, and you have water elemental, which is like such a good CD. You have like so many tools to survive as well, like double ice block. I think it's like really surprising how much you can control the battlefield as well. Polymorph is super big. Frost Nova is still one of the biggest like annoyances towards a warrior, for example. And I play warrior, so I really hate Frost Mage. Obviously, warrior has many more tools now at their disposal to like deal with a Frost Mage. But it's still not on the level of like, okay, I can do something. It's not like Blade Storm, like Wrath of the Lich King kind of deal. But anyways, Frost Mage God mode, I think it's like pretty standard. I think obviously the more further we go into the seasons, the better it will become. But even then, I think it's like it's just, if not one of them, at least like the best, like top three spec when it comes down to having fun in BGs. Pomp Pyro, I think I'm going to do it into good. The reason is like you are very dependent on like that Pomp Pyro, but you technically play like a fire mage half of the time, but you don't really have the perks of a fire mage. Um, you lack a lot of the damage that a fire mage could do, but Pomp Pyro gives you like that one instant burst that you could not have if you are like a full fire mage. So you gotta say that it's okay. Probably, I guess you could put it in okay because it's very like city dependent. I'm going to put it in okay because it's very city dependent, and to be fair, not as fun when you don't have presence of mind ready to use. You don't need to go like, for example, you don't need to go slow for arcane. You could like stop at arcane power, so you have arcane power pyroblast, for example, and I think you could go to blast wave 31. You could play into blast wave because you can go 41-20. So I guess if you're stopping at 31, you could go to 30 points if you want to, or you can do a good combination to 35-25, for example, or you go into frost mage. But I think it's okay. Like you can find like a lot of fun with Pompyro, but there's a lot of variance in how you want to play it in BGs. So it's okay. It's okay. It's not like it's something you can do in arenas where you can do double Pompyros, for example, and maybe win just with like one go. But yeah, it's still on a level where you can have your own fun. You can probably do some good PvP montage videos with that. Fire Mage, surprisingly, I'm going to do good because Dragon's Breath is actually, you can use it as a damage dealing ability. So you can literally do Blast Wave, Fire Blast, Dragon's Breath. Those are all instant spells and they all deal some decent chunk of damage. And the CDs are quite low. And yes, you will have to spam a lot of time Scorch. And a lot of time you're going to do like maybe 1 or 2 fireballs if you can. But there are like some combinations that you can play. You could like, there is a world where you could put a few points into frost mage to get like the easiness towards how you deal damage and how you can kite and whatnot. So there are again builds that you can play. Or you can go fire arcane, or you can go fire frost. The essence of the spell is still there, like instant costs. You can still do a good Cone of Gold, for example. You just need to play around the fire abilities and your positive things going on. Combust, obviously, it's not at the same level as the Combust from Cataclysm. Heck, even from Wrath. You don't have like Firebomb, so that's annoying. Living Bomb, excuse me, you don't have that. But I think it's good in PvP BGs. I tried it, played it as well a lot on Warmain, just to try to see like can it work in BGs. I find it good. I find it like you can have a lot of fun with it. Now it's not like surviving too much. That's the unfortunate part. But it's not as bad as people may say, and it's mostly not that good in arenas where you have to cost a lot, and you're not going to win with like just Dragon's Breath, like Fire Blast and like Blast Wave. But like in BGs, you can do that. You can really win, and you can maybe do on the off chance like a polymorph into Pyroblast. That's possible. In arenas, it's like literally impossible to do so. But in PvP, BGs, like in a 1v1 situation, you could technically do a Frost Nova into your Power Blast even, or you can even do like a sheep into a Power Blast. It's not like the most efficient thing, but it's still there for the grab for the people that do want to play Fire Mage. Rogue, Sub-Rogue, S tier, very strong, very mobile. You can literally steal any node as a Sub-Rogue. I find it one of the best PvP specs in the game, just in TBC, regardless of PvP activity. If it's like world PvP, arenas 2v2, 3v3 even. Could also say even like world PvP. Did I say world PvP? BGs, like any activity that you're going to do in PvP, Sub-Rogue is like probably like in the top 2 from a lot of people. And it doesn't need like to have glaives as well. Like people say like you need glaives to be like, nah, in PvP that doesn't work like that. You don't need to have glaives to be super good. You can also be without glaives and to be very good. In season 1, it's like again the resilience is the lowest for any spec, so you can burst down anyone and you are not that affected because you're most likely going to do like full PvP gear, or you could also have some swaps with PvE. And that's okay, but you're still at your strongest right now, in my opinion, because everyone is so squishy, and you get stronger, but other classes as well and more tanky as well. So I really like Rogue in general. So especially BGs, it's very fun, very strong, very mobile. You can win games by yourself as well. So I find it quite good. Now, this is for me combat rogue. I guess this is combat rogue for me. Or is this one combat rogue? I don't remember too much the icons. I'm going to say this is assassination rogue. I tried assassination PvP BGs. It's not bad. Actually, it's good. Most likely you're going to play sub. This is the truth. Utility is not bad, but it just doesn't do too much damage. And but envenoms, if you're like rolling and you're really like going with your poisons and whatnot, you can actually deal some great damage with envenom because it is nature damage and it goes through armor, and it's probably one of the best warrior kills if you are able to survive. That's the only part. Like your survivability is really low because you don't have like the double CTs that a sub rogue can have with prep. But it's still like there. So I like assassination. Now, if I have to choose between those two specs, obviously it will be sub. And if you compare those two specs, obviously you're going to think that assassination is bad or mutilate rogue is bad. But yeah, you have to judge the specs by itself and not really compare too much within those own specs. Because then you would put probably a lot of the specs into bad just basically because there is another spec that is better for PvP. So that's it. Combat Rogue, personally, I don't really like it, but I find it still okay because it is still a Rogue spec. And Rogue at itself, at its core, the mechanics behind Rogue is really strong in PvP. No matter the spec, you could like literally have without Shadow Step and still do okay. You just need like a stun like rotation, and you could technically with Adrenaline Rush like own someone. Now, is it competitive? No. Is it like the best spec? No. But you can for sure have fun as a combat rogue if you want to play with Adrenaline Rush. You could find maybe a spec where you can fit maybe something interesting. Again, if you're going into Adrenaline Rush, it only needs 31 points. Do you need to go lower? That's something like you can ask yourself, but then you can put 30 points into sub, or you can put 30 points into assassination, or like combination of those two, and maybe you have like a good spec that you can play in PvP like without like being arena focused, but like just purely for fun in BGs and have effective games and probably winning those games. You can find that, and that's why it's okay, but it's not bad because I find other specs that are like really bad, really bad. I think a spec that is just sincerely not really made for PvP doesn't mean that it's bad. That is my take. Now, Arms Warrior in PvP BGs, mind you, in BGs, I find it great to good. It could be in between. The only thing that you really need is a healer and spells and freedoms. If you don't have that, you're going to feel miserable no matter what, because you're going to face like sometimes hunters that are really like annoying and like guiding you constantly. You have also frost mages constantly, and mages are like overpopulated on classic anniversary, so I expect them to be also overpopulated in BGs. And you don't have Blaze Storm, you don't have Heroic Leap, you can not charge in combat, it's only intercept. So it's obviously you have Intervene now, so that's it. But you have MS Effect. MS Effect is super important for like the flag carrier if you're like thinking about Warsong Gulch. Eye of the Storm is also quite important for arms, and most likely you will have a healer. But in the other off chance where you do not have a healer behind you, it's really not that fun. That's why I'm like hesitating between good or great. But I'm going to put it in great because I find probably that you will find fun with arms if you have a healer, and you will have a healer, and you do have some good firepower. And I find it fun to play my mace spec and like have a lucky like stun and like obliterate that guy with maybe a slam, because you can play a slam build. That could be interesting, but again, I think a lot of people are going to be like not really the delusion, like they're not they're going to be disappointed, because obviously if you're a warrior, you're very dependent of your team to be able to push and to be not alone versus like five classes versus you. So it's still a BG setting, right? In PvP, like arenas 2v2, it's different. I'm like judging a bit less harsh here than on arenas. I think in arenas, arms is also A or B tier depending on who you're talking to. For some people, they put it like even S tier. To be fair, I also put it in S tier last tier list for arenas, but my opinion did change over time. But right now, I think it's a great spec to have fun in PvP. And you always need a for frontliners, so it's always going to be a good spec to have in your BGs with you at least. Fury Warrior. Now I'm going to surprise a lot of people with it. I find it's okay. I actually like Fury Warrior a lot in BGs because it gives you the damage is you feel really like a berserker. Now arms, you have a slow weapon, so if you're missing because of a dodge or a parry or anything, which can happen, no matter the amount of expertise you have, if someone has the talents for it, for example, like a sub rogue, you will dodge sometimes. Yeah, fine, you will have a dodge against you, which is very hard for arms warrior. But a fury warrior doesn't have that much of an effect when something happens to dodge, parry, or you miss. It's not like the end of the world, and I kind of like the gameplay of Fury. Now in PvP again, if you're thinking about arenas, it's not going to be that good. It's not even going to be okay. I think it's going to be bad. But in BGs, you can have fun, especially if you have like a great set of weapons and with a lot of haste. Procs, for example, you will be regening so much rage that you're always casting like something or anything, and that's a fun thing about Fury. Protection Warrior, it is bad in my opinion. It is not like Wrath of the Lich King Protection where you could have insane amount of fun in PvP. TBC Protection Warrior is not that much different than classic Protection Warrior in my mind. Of course, you have Devastate, but that's not nearly enough to call it like a fully fleshed spec. And even in PvE, it's not like the greatest spec either. So, um, be a bad is probably a good indication of the spec's power. Now, we are now at the priest class, holy priest. I don't find any reasons to play holy priest. I didn't play too much holy priest either. Maybe you can call it Smite Priest. Smite Priest could be fun in PvP, but it's not like super viable. Like you're going to have to cost a lot, and you are very stoppable. And if you get kicked, you cannot heal either, so that's not great. Um, but like healing wise, I think Disc Priest is just that much better. So I'm going to put it in C tier because I think any healer is okay. Look, if you give me like three holy priests in one BG, I'm a warrior. I'm still going to be very happy because I want desperately any heals and any dispels if possible. But if I have a choice between all the healer specs, and I think holy priest would be like the one that I'm going not to choose or like choose the least if I have a choice. Shadow Priest in BGs is. I find, like, again, as you may know, I have made multiple videos about Shadow Priest in TBC. I even have a level 60 Priest on a Classic Anniversary. I have my fun in PvP. Like, I find it's super fun to be able to have a lot of CC because you have silence, you have fear, which is super big. You have some good off heals as well. Your mana is very limited, and I had to learn to not dot everyone because in Classic or also in TBC Classic, spreading dots is not as effective because dots first and foremost don't have crit. They get diminished by resilience as well by a lot, like baseline, which is not that good for Shadow Priest and nor not that good for Affliction Warlock. But in season one, the resilience is not that high. Most people are going to take full damage of your spells, and as a Shadow Priest, you can still mana burn. You can still like do some big mind blasts. You can Shadow Word Death, which is the most fun ability for priest in my eyes. If you put Shadow Word Death onto a classic level 60 priest, it would be OP. That's how good it is. So TBC Shadow Priest, I find it great fun wise. Just need to like tunnel a target, put Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, do a Mind Flay, do a Mind Blast into Shadow Word Death if it's low. Even if it's not low, just do it to get it low, for example. But don't put a Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain on every single target, because first and foremost, it's going to be dispelled very quickly. If there is a priest, anything goes, right? But also, you will like the mana. You cannot spread dots like that. So you just focus onto one. Mind Flay a lot, Mind Blast a lot, Shadow Word Death. You have obviously your Shadow Word Pain, and you have obviously, if you're undead, you have Devouring Plague. So you have multitude of ways to deal damage. You have Vampiric Touch as well. That's also good. Multitude of ways to like deal damage, but just do it single target. That's my advice. And I think Master Spell is so good versus mages. Like, you're going to eat mages alive most of the time as well. Disc Priest, S tier. Should I even say too much about S tier? I think about Disc Priest. I think it is the ultimate healing spec because you have somewhat of a damage profile as well. You can mana burn as well. You have Dispel, double Dispel actually. You have double Purge. It's really good. You have Shadow Word Death to avoid Polymorph if you're doing it smart enough. You can avoid Polymorph or like a lot of CC. And you can deal some good damage as well. So overall, the best healer in my eyes. Resto Shaman in BGs is probably decent fun because you have Wind Fury. If you have an Arms Warrior friend, he's going to love you. But you don't have a lot of you don't have instant costs. Like, you don't have Riptide. Once you get Riptide, it becomes a bit more fun, but you don't have that in TBC. Earth Shield is good, but it gets dispelled, so it's not that great as well. I think the offensive power is fun for Resto Shaman because you can Chain Light, you can have Bloodlust. But I don't know if you can really judge that healer because of like those three things. So I'm going to put Resto Shaman into good because I think it's like better than Holy Priest, obviously, but it's not like great fun in BGs because you're not really that mobile when it comes down to healing. Like, you don't have instants. Disc Priest, for example, doesn't have too much instance as well, but you have Shadow Word Shield and you have Prayer of Mending, which is like a lot of healing, and then Renew. So that's not that Resto Shaman territory in my eyes. But in PvP 2s, for example, you can have a lot of fun. I think you can even put it higher, but in BGs, I find that it's not like up to the speed or the power level of the other healers in my eyes. Now, Elemental Shaman is surprisingly fun in BGs because you can turret. The issue is mana, still mana. It will stay mana. And the issues are like rogues with Shadow Word Death, with Cloak of Shadows, excuse me. That could be very annoying to deal with, and you don't have Thunderstorm. You don't have any hard CC, like for example Hexing Wrath. Yeah, I think just because you can actually play 40 points into Elemental Shaman, 21 points into Restoration Shaman, so you can have Nature Swiftness, that itself could be very good when it comes down to PvP, because you can do a surprise attack with Elemental Mastery into Nature Swiftness into, like, for example, Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning, depending on the situation. That's a lot of damage that is instant with your Shock, that you could, like, destroy someone into a one-shot. But I'm going to put it in good. I think it's good fun. It's not super viable. It's not like meta, but it's like good fun. So B tier because of that. Now, Enhancement Shaman, I'm going to put it in B tier as well. Wind Furies are fun, like the procs. It will lack the mana though. The mana is really the hardest part when it comes down to Enhancement Shaman. And even if you like get shamanistic rage, that is just simply not enough. You can go dual wield, you can go two-hander. I find two-hander very fun, but the consistency is dual wield. You have a purge, which is like super important. You have grounding totem. I think you can have a lot of fun in BGs, but you do get guided. You do get you can get pretty quickly as well. So B tier is probably a good justification towards that spec. Feral Druid. In BGs, I love it. I'm putting in great. I think the only reason why I'm not putting in God mode is because it has damage, but it's not like the the kind of damage that like a sub role can have. I think it just lacks that. You also don't have a vanish. You have good off heals, even like probably great off heals. I even think probably the best out of all the hybrids with Shadow Priest. But I think that little thing that misses from Feral is the availability of damage on your bleeds. If your bleeds could do damage, like how it is for Wrath, Rake and Rip, I think that would be like it would make Feral Druid very OP. Because now what it lacks is the consistent damage that comes down from bleeds. Now you're just like doing mangle into shreds if you can shred, and then maybe a ferocious bite, and try to outlast maybe with a rip. But rake does do no damage, unfortunately. So even if you have a mangle up with like a big boost towards your bleeds, that is simply not enough to make rake relevant. Balance Druid also great fun in BGs. I think in BGs, if you have like a certain amount of spell power and a certain amount of crit, being able to do a crit on Moonfire and then have a Nature's Grace proc into a Starfire, that is not like super uncommon. Like that's something that happens all the time, and they deal a crazy amount of damage. Like it's crazy the amount of damage it can do. It is rather tanky if you're Moonkin form. Like you're not going to fall down to a rogue like immediately. Obviously, it's not on the level of like WoW Bounce Druid. It is tanky and deals like a lot of damage that is instant. That it's not on this level that we are yet with Bounce Druid. But I think it's a fantastic class. Like I think fun wise, it is there. Now I'm very biased. I am a Druid main as well on Classic. I'm planning on playing Feral, but I don't mind playing Resto Druid, which is the next one I'm going to talk about. Resto Druid is going to be very worth to play, but I'm going to say but. Mana is a big issue for Resto Druid. If you're healing everyone, you're not going to like last very long. Live Bloom does a crazy amount of healing, but not at this stage, not season 1. You can flag carry as well. I'm going to put it in God mode still. I think it's the second best healer, so I think it's okay to have it in God mode. There's not a lot of bad specs, I'm going to say. I can like probably say it safely. Another spec that I do like, and that is Holy Paladin, and I like Shokadin a lot. I really love Shokadin. Now there is no Shokadin here, so I'm not gonna like say and pretend that there is. But let's talk about Holy Paladin. I think Holy Paladin is on the same tier as Resto Shaman, for the simple reason that it has bobs. It has again Divine Shield for himself. You can lay off hand if you want to. You have obviously freedom, which is super important for the flag carrier, and you can carry fights because of your Hajj. That's also a possibility. I think it just lacks like that instant heal that is like outside of Holy Shock. It's a fun spec. I personally would not play Holy Paladin if I was a Paladin. I would be playing Retribution Paladin because I find it more fun. But you can have some decent success with a Holy Paladin to BGs, for example. I think it's a good combination. Now in 2s, in 3s, different, but that's not really the video. The video is about BGs and casual play, so I'm not going to talk too much about the arenas. Protection Paladin, I'm going to put it in bad, but technically tanks are not that bad, but it just is like a spot that is not going to be fulfilled by the team members. Like, so it's really just a loss of a team member when it comes down to a protection paladin, for example. Now, retribution paladin, I'm going to put it in A tier. You're going to be surprised. Like, a lot of people like are going to cry that I put like a lot of like classes into A tier, but legitimately in BGs you can have fun with any spec, and I think retribution paladin is one of them. You can have a lot of fun because you can dispel slows on yourself, you can go freedom on yourself, one harsh on the healer as well if you can to finish it like a target, or you want to burst the one that you harshed. I think with a Wind Fury behind your back, you can do a lot of damage as well. And if you Swivel Twist while you have Wind Fury, that's like a casino that you're going to have a lot of fun to discover in TBC Classic Anniversary. So a great spec when it comes down to solo play casual BGs. I think it's like one of the best specs in the game. BM Hunter, now in BGs, I'm going to put in B tier. It's not bad. It's very CD reliant, but it's also fun to be able to like destroy someone without them being able to retaliate. They cannot really focus the pets too much on BGs. I find it okay, but like again, CD reliant, and it's not on the same level as MM or survival. I think MM in BGs is like a sneaky S tier. I think it's super fun to be able like to do an aim shot without being like trained like in arenas. In arenas, getting an aim shot is like nigh impossible if they know how to play, or you need to have a crazy CC setup so you are not benefiting on CCing the healer, but you're doing the CC on the DPS. I think MM Hunter is really good at like destroying those frost mages, those warlocks, those shadow priests, or even just like a disc priest from a very advantageous distance, I would say. Survival Hunter is the last spec, but not least. I think it's a A tier. It's a higher tier than survival than BM. I think you gain a lot of goodies from Survival Hunter that you could not go as a BM, and I find the damage not that bad, and you could also like kind of melee weave as well. If you have like crit on your Raptor Strike, you could crit on a big Raptor Strike from a big two-hander, and that does a lot of damage. So yeah, I kind of like it. So this is a tier list for casual PvP BGs. If you have any remarks or objections, please let me know in the comment section below. Has been 42 minutes where I talk about specs. I'm very tired, but at the end I think this list would not change too much. Obviously it is not rated inside of the tiers, so red is not the best out of A tier. They just happen to be in front of everyone. I would say the only tier where it matters is probably the S tier, where you sub rogue frost mage is the most fun ones, the MM is the third one, and then you have disc priest being ahead of resto druid. Anyways, thank you for watching, have a great day, bye.